I really want to see Gold, Silver, and Crystal versions on the 3DS Virtual Console. These are some of my favorite Pokemon games ever, so let's go and have a discussion about it. I want you to comment down below if you think Game Freak will release these games, because I've already heard quite a few people saying that it's just going to be the first generation. I think that's a little unfair for multiple reasons, so let's go and address that. So Red, Blue, Yellow Virtual Console, I don't think it was meant to be a standalone experience. I don't think that Game Freak made it just to be like, oh, now we have our Game Boy compatibility, you know, you get to have all that old school fun of the original Pokemon games, and then you get to play with the Pokemon in Pokemon Sun and Moon and call it GG right there. Because I think that this was one of the coolest things. I really wanted to play Blue version again, but I don't have any ways of getting it. I'm not going to go track down a Game Boy and then overpay for an old copy of the game that might not work correctly or something like that. And when it comes to second generation, the second generation is even worse and really needs a Virtual Console release because those little batteries that kept track of the time, those die and your game is pretty much screwed. So I'd have to hunt down a copy of the game that probably doesn't even work anymore and then do my own little fixing for it and probably screw something up. Also, when we originally saw the reveal of the Pokemon Bank or Poke Transporter working with these games, they were talking about how the connectivity for the Game Boy did not work into the Game Boy Advance. They never sorted those issues out. And because of that, I think that opens up the second generation as well. It really doesn't make a lot of sense that they'd only do the first generation and then kind of leave the second generation out, even though the Red, Blue, Yellow Virtual Console was a huge success. It sold over 1.5 million copies for just re-releasing the game for a couple bucks, and I am down for paying just $10 instead of having to go out and hunt down my own Game Boy and get a copy of the game and all kinds of stuff like that. So I think that it's just going to be really good to keep these Pokemon games alive, keep them in everyone's thoughts, and then have it to where now we have second generation Pokemon available through transfer. We can even see that some of the other Virtual Console software has things like Pokemon Puzzle Challenge, which is a second generation based game, and even going all the way into the Pokemon trading card game. So we know the titles can run pretty deep for Pokemon, and I don't see really any reason why there wouldn't be something for the second generation. So we just kind of covered why Game Freak would do this, because I don't really see any reason why they wouldn't, and it would just be a fun thing that kind of expands upon everything. So let's talk about the when. Now, I don't exactly remember when the 3DS Virtual Console announcement happened, but according to this article I found on Nintendo Life, it seems somewhere around November 12th. So it was just under 4 months from the time it was announced to the time that it was released. I'm kind of disappointed. I was really hoping that 1 year later they would just be like, here's the second generation, go have some fun and go drop these Pokemon into the Pokemon Bank as well. But also, since Pokemon Bank just became available, that's kind of an issue right there. And since Pokemon Go, I was thinking that maybe there'd be something with Pokemon Go. Pokemon Go drops a major Johto bomb, and then maybe that could create something for the Virtual Console to justify releasing the second generation. But unfortunately, it doesn't look like they're going to be doing it for a year, and if we're taking the 4-ish month rule, then if it was announced tomorrow that there'd be the games, then we're looking at some kind of summer release, which could make a lot of sense. And I guess it also depends on when the next Pokemon game is coming out, because we have no information on that. If it's just going to be some kind of holiday release 2017 for the Pokemon Sun and Moon sequel, then it would make a lot of sense for a late spring, early summer game like Gold, Silver, Crystal remakes to kind of revitalize everyone, keep everyone excited, then start dropping some Pokemon news, and then things could get pretty hyped, because also the movie Pokemon I Choose You is coming out. I think it could be an incredible push for Pokemon to kind of keep this 20th anniversary momentum as we go into the 21st year of Pokemon, and then just keep dropping and launching all kinds of amazing stuff. However, it could make sense if Game Freak is going to be doing something like Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, that there's a 2-year gap between games. That way you can kind of hold us over with a yellow version or all these other little things, or maybe if it's like a 1.5 years between games because it's going to be a bigger project but they don't want to make us wait as long. So depending on how long we're waiting, maybe we'll see Silver version in some kind of fall release, and then early spring, late winter is when we're actually going to be getting the next Pokemon game. There's a lot of weird things that could happen, so if we get any little Pokemon information, maybe we can lock down the timing for later. But now let's talk about the reasons as to what would make this so much more special than having just Silver version on a Game Boy if you dug up your Game Boy. Or even when comparing it to Heart Gold and Soul Silver, that those games are more recent than Fire Red, Leaf Green, they're in a new generation of consoles, therefore it's easier to transfer Pokemon from that into Pokemon Sun and Moon. I still think it's a bit of a hassle. I'd just rather go 2nd gen straight into 7th gen instead of having to go into my copy of Black and White, do all these tedious trades and stuff. that could be a bit annoying right there. So it is kind of newish, but I don't think that should deter Game Freak or any kind of re-release of the second generation, especially because what has happened is that these games have gone up in price. That's about $80 to get a hold of a copy of Soul Silver version. I'd rather just play a couple bucks and then get the second generation in its raw original form. Also, I was young back then. I want to go and experience this now as an adult and just see how it feels. That nostalgia factor is going to be absolutely massive. But then there's also the gameplay features. Like, the gameplay itself, I just loved every minute as a kid when I was playing Silver version originally, so I do really want to go experience that. And I guess if I just want to make that a big reason, it's like, the game's awesome, I want to enjoy that again, and it's just a little different than Soul Silver. I consider Soul Silver a better game than the original, but you still have to go back and have that experience. Now, one of the biggest reasons why this would be awesome is that transfer. That you can take that first gen experience, you can take that second gen experience, and then you can play it in the current iteration of Pokemon, so it's at least some incentive to really try and play the second generation, play these Virtual Console games like you've never played them before. Now, one pretty massive benefit would be instant access to the hidden abilities of all the Johto Pokemon, and even some of the first generation Pokemon that appear that you didn't do in the Red, Blue, Yellow Virtual Console. And it's kind of a tough sell at this point because, yes, we do have the 5th through 7th generation. You can SOS battles for some abilities. You can also just go Friend Safari or do whatever. Now that the Pokemon Bank is available, yeah, you could just kind of get all the hidden abilities anyways. But there's still some cool aspects that, yeah, we could get the hidden abilities of all the starter Pokemon in a fairly natural form of transfer, and maybe some other Pokemon as well. Also, I haven't really looked into it, but maybe there's some kind of exclusive TMs or moveset level ups that were pretty fancy in the second generation that would kind of unlock something like kind of how we had the exclusive Generation 1 TMs lead to some really cool situations when we transferred those. So I like it from that aspect that, yeah, we could just transfer over and have some neat benefits for that, you know, instant 3 IV Pokemon that could help with breeding, you get some hidden abilities, so it's just a nice little thing to add on as you beat the game. Like, I would just play it for the game. I would have still done it for Blue version, that I would just buy it and play through the game and enjoy my childhood all over again, and it didn't have to have accessibility into Pokebank in the 7th generation. That's just a really neat side effect that led to all kinds of fun and glitches, but also one really cool thing is shiny hunting. Honestly, what I'm looking forward to the most, if there is a Gold, Silver, Crystal Virtual Console, is shiny hunting. I'm not kidding, like, that would be so cool. So you beat the game, and then you do your shiny hunting, and that would be like one of the ultimate shiny achievements. But also, because the second generation is a little broken with how shinies work, because it works off of DVs. Now, DVs actually work in the first generation, so one thing that's really amazing is that for the first generation Virtual Console, Game Freak kept in data value transfer, and then you can actually transfer over shiny Pokemon from 1st gen into 7th gen. Well, 2nd gen, those Pokemon are actually shiny. So what would be really cool is if you could actually, like, time capsule and trade between the 1st generation and the 2nd generation, and then have all those shiny things kind of come true, then still bring them into the 7th generation. And then one of the coolest things in the 2nd generation is that you can actually breed shiny Pokemon and have a higher chance of getting a shiny child Pokemon. Which means that there'd be like this epic hunt to get a shiny Ditto, and then drop all of your odds down to potentially 1 in 500 for shiny, and you can breed that with everything. Also, breeding 2 shiny parents, or any ones that have overlapping DVs, could drop your odds as low as 1 in 64. And remember, you do get the red Gyarados. You already have a shiny Pokemon to begin with, which means shiny Magikarps are kind of really fun to farm in the 2nd generation, and we can transfer those over as well. And then you could just transfer over the red Gyarados, and it could have a good nature and good IVs just like that. You hyper train it, done. So you get access to at least 1 shiny Pokemon. The legendary is catching the legendary Pokemon all over again would be pretty cool. So I just really like the whole aspect of shiny hunting, that it exists in 1st generation, and it's kind of magical that it's something that you can apply, and in the 2nd generation it's more direct. So I would kind of like that as another avenue for shiny hunting. And then there's also the glitches. So in 1st generation, much more broken than the 2nd generation, but the 2nd generation still has a couple of interesting glitches that you can do, such as the PC cloning glitch, which allows you to get multiple starters. So if there are hidden ability transfers, you can technically just get all of the hidden ability starter Pokemon, which were a pretty exclusive event. So now this kind of just opens that up to everyone. Get all the hidden abilities, boom, that's cool. And you could either just kind of start a new game, transfer the Pokemon, start a new game, transfer the Pokemon, or you could just straight up clone them and then abuse some of the glitches like that. So the glitches are not as exploitative for transfer, but it's still something pretty fun that you get to have that entirety of the original experience And if we can also do the time machine method, then there's a way of getting a DV manipulated Ditto. You go and bring that into the second generation, which means shiny hunting through that Ditto or shiny breeding through that Ditto gets a lot easier. And that means like you get that Ditto and then you go out and find a wild shiny Pokemon, and then you can breed offspring of that have an insanely high chance of being shiny. So I think that there's a lot of potential right here. I was really trying to look into some of the other things, like, yeah, it's kind of like Soul Silver Light. Enjoy the game originally all over again. Like, I feel the graphics are just nice. Like, the graphics just feel good. When the game is playing at night, it's very calming, it's very cool, so I really like that whole experience that's set up right there, and then just all the other aspects just kind of flow into it. I would like to have a Lugia with a hidden ability. That was, what was it, Dream Radar? So that's a pretty hard to get Pokemon. Well, if I could soft reset a Lugia in the second generation Virtual Console and bring that over, that's pretty nice. Or if I could get a shiny Lugia through that method and then have a shiny hidden ability Lugia. Holy crap, that's freaking cool. So a lot of the accessibility would get nice. Same with the legendary beasts. Actually, one thing that might support a second generation Virtual Console release is that the legendary beasts had their hidden ability changed. They used to be like Voltbzorb, I don't remember. It was like Voltbzorb, Water Absorb, and Flashfire, I believe. And ever since then, there was also that event where they were shiny for the Zoroark movies. So if we can kind of mix that around, yeah, we can also get hidden abilities for all of the legendary Pokemon in the second generation, and that would kind of work with some of the changes that we've already seen. So there's incentive to play the game. The game is just awesome on its own. You can kind of glitch it out, and you can also use it for really awesome competitive things. And if you're a shiny hunter, this is like a shiny hunting dream. I'm not even a shiny hunter. I think this is something really cool. If you want to go for like the ultimate Pokemon accomplishments, you can find those in the second generation, and then just playing the second generation, playing the first generation, beating Red on top of Mount Silver. I want all of that again. I think it'd be pretty awesome. So if you guys enjoy the video, hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.